Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I, Dr. Sudeshna, on behalf of Mondelez Lab, welcome you all to this auspicious meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, guests and esteemed colleagues, I stand before you today with great enthusiasm and a profound sense of honor as I introduce a remarkable scientist, an exceptional academician, and an individual whose unwavering dedication to unraveling the mysteries of our universe has propelled her to the forefront of scientific innovation. But before I take the heavy responsibility of putting the contribution in words, I call upon stage Executive Director Mondelez, CEO of i5 Technologies, Mr. Shiraz Raza Siddiqui, Director of Research, Dr. Pramod Kumar, and Senior Scientist and Group Project Manager, Dr. Mohammad Firoz Khan, to present her with the freshness and sparkle which she herself carries.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for everyone participating here. And on behalf of Mondelez, I would welcome Dr. Sudeshna, and I hope we will be having a very interesting discussion with you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Before I begin, with extreme delight, I call Dr. Pramod Kumar to throw some light on the vision of Mondelez Lab very succinctly.
My voice is very high. So let me give you some glimpses of the research is being done in at Mondelez laboratory. So we started this laboratory 2020 March, and by vision and mission of this Mondelez is to create a scientific platform based on laser light in the context of various research areas. So it's just a multidisciplinary research platform. So we can deal with biology, we can deal with chemistry, we can deal with mathematics and things. But the question is that how to deal all these things with laser light. So that is why we gave this name is QuantLase. So it's a quantum-enabled photonic technology for the application in various interdisciplinary research areas. So we divided this research into five parts. One laboratory actually dedicated to high power laser system, and behind this laser system we can deal various issues. So I don't think so it's the right time to discuss in detail of each and everything. But here is you can see that there is a 5 laboratory: high power laser laboratory, quantum photonics, quantum biophotonics, advanced material, and photonic integration. So because people want everything fabricated on chip scale, so we are interested to design the chip on our laboratory. So there are 5 dedicated laboratory belongs to QuantLase. So QuantLase is just a fascinating platform where biologists, chemists, mathematicians, computer scientists, they're all working all together, and in order to make a bridge among the multidisciplinary research area, because sometimes you don't understand the chemical language, sometimes you don't understand the mathematical language in order to fulfill your requirement. So it's a very fascinating platform. I would say it's a very nice platform to put all the different distinguished scientists belongs to different area of research put together and make the concrete progress in this context. Okay, without any further delay, I just give you the flavor of because today's talk is dedicated to particular topic. It's not a general topic, so it's dedicated to chaos. So today we will. I'm just giving the flavor about how chaos can be used for technological application and what is the benefit of chaos. What's so special about chaos? How does this chaos applicable in various systems? So particularly here we are working on optical chaos based technology. In this technology, one can use this technology for quantum random number generator or quantum cryptography, or you can make it as a decision making machine, or you can call it photonic intelligence. So every this fascinating technology actually being driven by optical chaos. So just to give you the flavor of optical chaos. When you couple, when your physical system or biological or chemical system coupled to each other, so it's work as a coupled oscillator system. So coupled oscillator system have attracted much attention in recent years, not only because of potential application in modern optical technology, but it is a fundamental test where you study and understand of highly complex dynamics in detail. So it's the engineering challenge how to understand the chaos in the presence of noise, of course, in order to make the system robust. So today our guest speaker will talk about all these things in detail, and she'll talk about everything. And hopefully you will enjoy the talk and you will get the flavor about the chaos and the technological application. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a resounding round of applause to the brilliant Professor Sudeshna Sinha. Please. As she is a name that needs no formal introduction, I feel extremely delighted and, of course, in a tight spot to introduce her to all of you to bring out her essence as a person. Professor Sudeshna Sinha, a distinguished professor in the Department of Physics and the Deputy Director of prestigious Indian Institute of Science Education and Research in Mohali, India, is a name that has become synonymous with the revolutionary advancement in the field of nonlinear physics. With an unyielding passion for pushing the boundaries of human understanding, she has embarked on a journey that has forever transformed the landscape of computing. Her remarkable journey began during the 5-year integrated Masters in Chemistry at IIT Kanpur, which laid the foundation of her future endeavors. At the heart of Professor Sinha's groundbreaking research lies the intriguing concept of chaos, as taught by Dr. Pramod, of chaos computing, a revolutionary technique that has the potential to create advanced generation of computing machines. Through her tireless efforts, she has unveiled the hidden patterns and underlying order concealed within the seemingly chaotic system, such as the weather. By harnessing the richness of these intricate patterns, Professor Sinha has opened the doors to a world where computing devices possess unparalleled flexibility and transformative capabilities. From an article in Hindustan Times published in 2019, I found out that her journey into the realm of chaos computing began in 1997 when she had a fortuitous encounter with physicist Professor William Ditto at a conference in Bangalore. Collaborating with Professor Ditto, Professor Sinha delved into the realm of the chaos theory, a mathematical framework that uncovers the hidden structure in complex and seemingly random systems, guided by the belief that within chaos lies immense potential. They got on a remarkable mission to construct circuits that mimic the behavior of chaotic systems. Professor Sinha and Professor Ditto embarked on a pioneering journey, culminating in the invention of chaos computing. This revolutionary technique has shattered the confines of traditional computing, offering a glimpse into the world where machines possess unparalleled flexibility and adaptability. With chaos computing, the rules of the game have been rewritten by her, heralding a new era of advanced computing machines that defy our preconceived notions. Her groundbreaking concept of chaos computing has sent shock waves throughout the industry, captivating the attention of experts and garnering commercial interest too from prestigious organizations like Carolinics, a US-based company at the forefront of technological innovation. Professor Sudeshna Sinha visionary contributions have earned her widespread acclaim and numerous prestigious accolades. She is a recipient of the esteemed Birla Award for Physics, a recognition that highlights her remarkable contributions to the field. Furthermore, her outstanding achievements led her to being conferred the J.C. Bose National Fellowship, an honor reserved for those who exemplify exceptional scholarship and contribute significantly to both research and teaching. Her induction as a Fellow of the Indian Academy of Sciences, the Indian National Academy, and the World Academy of Sciences further cements her status as a luminary in her field. As we gather here today, we are privileged to witness Professor Sudeshna Sinha's transformative brilliance firsthand. Her relentless pursuit of scientific excellence in the face of all challenges and adversities, embracing motherhood, as she said in an interview, propelled her to the forefront of a paradigm-shifting revolution in computing coupled with her extraordinary vision. Brace yourself for an awe-inspiring journey as Professor Sinha takes the stage to deliver a lecture where she will unravel the intricacies of chaos and noise in the age of logic. That's the topic today. Prepare to be captivated by insights into the reconfigurable logic gates, the interplay of nonlinearity and noise, and the immense possibilities that lie within these concepts for electronic circuits, synthetic genetic circuits, and nanomechanical oscillators, which we are interested in. In the presence of this extraordinary mind, let us open our hearts and minds to the boundless possibilities that await us. In one of her interviews, she said, the more open one is to ideas and techniques in different disciplines, the greater is the chance for making an impact. The significance of the result may also lie outside one's discipline, and one must be alert and grab those potentials. And she linked out her words. Please join me in welcoming exceptional Professor Sudeshna Sinha with a thunderous applause as we eagerly anticipate the wisdom and insight she is about to share.
I don't think I need this, right? Do I need this? Probably not, right? If you feel you can't hear me, I will back off. Well, I must start by thanking Dr. Pramod for this very generous invitation. I must say my mind is blown by this, the scale and scope of your research kind of company or whatever you call it, organization. I was telling him if I get my friends from India to come here, they would be a bit jealous. So since I'm not an experimentalist, I'm not that jealous, but I can see that it's a really wonderful thing that you all have set up, and I wish you all, more and more success. And what is nice is it's built on great success, but I'm sure it's bound to soar. I'm delighted to see that. So. I should also thank her for this very generous introduction. I was embarrassed hearing those words because half of them are not quite true, but you can sort of take it to the picture. So, but thank you nonetheless. It was much more than I deserved. Okay, so now to the fun part. So what I thought I'd share with you is one thread of what I have been doing, and they bring together two things which you may not have thought were, belong together in the same sentence. One is chaos and one is logic. And I throw in noise as well. So that will be the second part. The first part will actually be chaos and logic. Second part will be noise and logic, and a little bit to tie in chaos, noise, and logic. And so let me get on. So what I thought I'd start with, because everybody's talking quantum nowadays, right? I mean, you like look at every science journal, every funding agency, and you hear quantum. But I just want to bring back the effectiveness of classical mechanics. And this is a spin on, it's actually a misquote of Eugene Wigner, who had said it in the context of mathematics and physics. I like to put it in the context of classical mechanics. The way I like to put it is it's unreasonably effective. Why unreasonable? Because we know the world is quantum. Okay? We are not judging, we are not even disagreeing with that. Of course it is. But so what? The point is that classical mechanics is unreasonably effective. Even when you don't expect it to be that good. It has no business being that good, but it still is. And the range of classical mechanics is amazing. So I have friends who do NEMs, who are tiny oscillators, all the way to astrophysical scales. Same set of equations, the same kind of framework. And that is what boggles the mind, that the same little equation which I can write for that tiny NEM and for astronomical scales is somehow not different. And that I find it's still amazing to think about. The part which I like, because I'm essentially a little bit of a mathematically bent person, is that it is very vigorous. So you don't have to wave your hands, make approximations, and always try and go to the computer and write huge code. You can actually do a lot of calculations exactly, and that is a part which appeals to a whole bunch of us. So classical mechanics, when you say classical, it's a polite word to say old. You say something is classical means it's very old. So it is very old, but the new kid in the block is chaos. So you can think of chaos as a new concept in a very old, very successful domains. Okay? And it was needed because essentially you had to assess or reassess the way in which you're viewing the classical physics. And why did you need that? Why did you even have to reassess? And the reason you had to do that is that very simple processes, natural processes, some engineered even, and some natural, very large number of natural processes, exhibited extremely complex behavior. And so complex that it looked as if, if you hadn't thought of it very much, it looked as if maybe the forces that were governing it were random, not even deterministic. Okay? So some way you had to put these two things together, a completely deterministic system, but displaying such sensitivity to initial conditions that it is essentially unpredictable. So because you use the word determinism and predictability to mean the same thing. But here you're using deterministic systems to actually give something effectively or at some time scale is unpredictable, which is of course what a lot of you are using to do your random number generator. So that is in the heart of this. And of course, it's also bad news for astrologers who are trying to do the opposite thing. So I have to put that in. So, okay. So anyway, so this sort of necessitated a paradigm shift. And this is the new science of chaos. So again, a famous quote, which I am misquoting, does God really this? So is God really a random number generator? Okay. And the more precise statement here is, the present determines the future, but approximate present does not approximately determine the future. Which means, if with infinite precision I knew the present, then with infinite precision I will know the future. That part is given by classical mechanics, which is like a deterministic framework, without noise that is. But even if you make the slightest error, say all of you use your computers and say you have 64-bit precision, and which means 65th bit, all bets are off. You don't know what it is. So it's finite precision, great precision, but still finite. And that 65th bit is going to come and bite you after a very short time. That is what chaos is telling. So the key idea is that the deterministic system still have a formula, okay, is so sensitive to the initial condition that it is impossible to predict in the long term. Unless you have this perfect representation of, I have put this for people who like to do computing, all of us do, perfect representation of analog values. By that I mean, all of us have these reals, you write X, you have something, and we don't realize that they are all actually finite representations. And so I would also put a simple but correct, maybe imprecise, technical definition of chaos is that it is sustained, disorderly looking, aperiodic. So if you do a Fourier transform, no need delta functions become long-term evolution, where almost all of these states display sensitivity. So I have two pictures, okay? And they are generated by two very simple systems, uh, which I given here. So the way this is written is not maybe the way in which some of you have done dynamics. Most of you would have done it from Newtonian mechanics, which is differential equations. So you might have a second order differential equation or a set of first order differential equations. These are what are called maps. These are even simpler. So what it means is what exactly a observational person does, or just anybody in life. What do? You say at point N, I observe the system. I wait, maybe my something rate is great or whatever, but I wait for a short time, observe the system, wait for another short time, observe the system. So stroboscopically, I keep observing the system. And so here it says, don't worry about your differential equation, Newton told you, that's fine. I just take it as is observation at time n, how is it related to observation at time n minus 1? And I make it. So these are very simple. So these are 1D, which means I have one number which I'm following. Okay? And I've given three maps. As you can see, nothing complicated is written. If you don't know the mod function, you might may not know it, but you can leave that middle one out. But those are very simple functions: 4x, 1 minus x, and that other one. So these three, I have put one of them. All of them will look the same. Look like this. So this is the iterate number, and that is x. So if you closed your eyes and just saw that mess, you might think this came from a random number generator in your machine. You might have said, I looked at my laptop and I just kept, pushing it out, and I get a thing which looks like a mess like this. It's not unreasonable to expect. And that is the beauty of it. How simple the formula is. It's a formula. No noise was put in there. A formula which looks like this, which if you put in your, mobile phone, you'll be able to get thousands of them easily. Gives you this. So that is the part, the simple system and the complex outcome. And that is the heart of it. That you can get all this complexity by actually having something which is at the background, it's going like clockwork. So it's a clockwork universe is giving you this outcome. Okay. And I should also mention one small, slightly technical point. If you don't get it, it's all right. It's a middle one. It's called the shift map. This one actually, in his Dr. Pramod, this one actually is provably is a Bernoulli shift. So it is as random as a fair coin toss, not the Cholet coin which is biased and all, but if you have a coin with a 50% chance of head, 50% chance of tail. If you tossed it, you will get something which is indistinguishable. And that is just 2x, mod 1 is just that it wraps around. So, okay. So that is the power of it. I have one last general, picture before I get into this. So that was one-dimensional x. Suppose I have a two-dimensional map, just to make it a little bit nicer. So this is a two-dimensional map. So there is a x and there is a y. You will notice the mod function. That is just to say that it's kept in a square. But otherwise, it's so simple: 2x plus y, and that's x plus y. And this is a pixelated image of a cat. Okay? Just to say that only quantum mechanics has cats, we also have cats. Okay? So here is a cat. And this poor cat, if you do one iterate of the map, what happens is it goes from that level. I should use this maybe. It goes from here to here in one step. So actually, if anyone intercepted this picture, to go back and reconstruct this is practically very hard. So this again is why people are so tempted to use these for cryptography or just masking images. You just put this X and Y as your information. In one step, you can make it unrecognizable. So the poor cat has been slashed, diced, and looks like this, not like a cat. And of course, in mathematical terms, the two things which it does is the stretching operation and the folding operation. And this comes from the stretch, and the mod comes from the fold. If you want to think about it, and we'll discuss later. Yeah. So now I shift gears slightly. So it's wonderful. Chaos, I think, if you start thinking about it, the mind boggles because it's stranger than what you would have even anticipated by just looking at the equations. So now the question is there some way to use this new knowledge of cluster dynamics? So your knowledge has given you a new frontier. Is there some way you can use it? So I think the business, one of the sections of the business of this group is indeed that. And so I thought I would choose this topic. Okay. So what I'll do is, maybe these are the two key papers, but I will simplify it and try to just give the key ideas. No point giving all the equations. So it's essentially going to be in two short parts. One is the use of what I would call controlled chaos. And so let me start by just saying this. I'm a theorist, and theorists have a very bad habit. We give some idea, and then we say, go do this. But you can say these words, but if you have a nonlinear system, you also have to give a prescription. It has to be prescriptive. You have to tell them what to do to get that. I mean, it's one thing to say, I observed it, so it must be there. It's another thing to tell a series of a flow chart of things to do. So, in order to do that, what we tried to do was to use controlled chaos, where the whole thing is a strategy to get all of these patterns from nonlinear dynamics. And this is the first paper I think she was referring to with Will and I, which was 1998. And later on, we thought, because a lot of people asked the question, I'm sure they asked people of this lab too, what about noise? There is always noise. So if you had noise, things are bound to degrade. So what happens? So while thinking about noise, after a lot of years, 1998, 2009, one thought of another idea, which was based on this thing called stochastic resonance, where you get this undesirable noise to work. So I will come. So this is the lab. I have about 50 more minutes. So I start with a small story because, as I said, I don't know how many of you are, I think all of you are probably expert with this. But I'm in theory. So we had long back in a place called EARC in India, sitting there. It's a huge thing which has, accelerators and stuff like that. But they would tolerate a few people doing nothing related to nuclear physics in the border. We were hoping to get a job, so we were sitting there. And we had thought of kind of dynamics where you would adapt the chaos at every site, and we got self-organization. So we were happy. However, some people liked it, but a News and Views article came. We were very happy that they even saw our paper, and that John Maddox actually wrote about it. Those were the days where no internet, so the fact that he picked it up was nice. But he also said that these were abstract models in search of problems. So it stayed at the back of my head that some things which mathematically are cute, but may not actually still might be so abstract that you don't have enough connect with the applications or no way. So then I thought that same old idea, which was actually 1990, turned it around and said, you could take the same idea and you spin it in the ultra way. So you kind of say, okay, so you have this idea, you think, you went forward saying that here is my I had, a concept which gave this observation. If the observation is what you want, you work backwards and say your concept was the prescription. So, you're going the same thing, but you're pushing it, in the opposite way. So this is what it is. Oops. So this is the control scheme. It's very, very simple to do in experimental setups, which is the only reason why I think the experimenters like us. All it says is this. If you have a variable x, you set a threshold x star. In setting that threshold, you have to be clever. That part, you have to work. But okay, you set a threshold x, and all you're saying is that the system does whatever it wants if it is less than x. X star is a hard cutoff. If it pushes above it, you pull it back to x star. That's it. So it is a way of your dynamic range is limited and by a little. So I don't know, because there were some people from India, so they would understand this. There's this thing called Lakshman Rekha. So you sort of, there is this whole thing where you can wander out. But the moment you step out of that, magic circle, you are pulled back. That's all. Inside the circle, you're free. So it's a very, you don't actually micromanage the system. You do it infrequently. So first thing was, why should this work? Here is a chaotic system doing all kinds of stuff. This little tweak on it, can you actually make it, influence it at all? And the answer was very interesting. The little range which you were clipping got the chaos to become cycles, periodic cycles of exact periods. So you got stable patterns out of chaos. So all that mess that I showed you, instead suddenly became perfect patterns of all kinds of patterns. So you got a pattern generator, very stable, in fact super stable, provably so. And why was chaos advantageous? It was advantageous because it had all those patterns to clip. If you didn't have all those nice things, so you can think of it like a thread going thing, and you clip part of it, and then so this becomes one cycle, the other one becomes another one. If you didn't have all those patterns, you wouldn't have all the stable cycles. So that is where the chaos, power of chaos is. That it's this kind of a powerful pattern generator because it has that complexity. And in effective terms, what you can do is you can get a lookup table. People who are engineers love lookup tables because it's prescriptive. You say, want this, do that. Want this, do that. That's what they want, right? I mean, it's one thing to say underlying chaos is that, but lookup table is what they were offering. And what was the lookup table? It's this threshold which you can put by hand. It's a number and the control period. So you can get fixed points, you get period, that goes two of them, period 4, repeats every 4 steps, etc. And actually, you can prove this part. I am sparing the audience that these are super stable orbits. That part I like doing, but I will not trouble you with that. So you can just take it from me that these are not just cycles, that is to say, perfect period patterns. They are also super stable. So we have a flexible pattern generator. And these were the things. This I like. Everyone has their own favorite paper, which no one else might like, but they like the most. So I like this paper of mine, because I just sat alone and figured the exact calculations. Though it is not maybe what everyone quotes, but it is the basis of not that. So no theory goes waste for people who are oriented towards more mathematics. Many years passed. No one said, people said, okay, you've done this as a calculation and you did all these, all the mathematics, but I don't think it works. But then I had this young colleague called Murali who was in Chennai. You know Murali probably, right? Yeah. So he loves electronic circuits, lots of circuits. So I said, why don't you just put it in there? It's so neat in theory that it can't be so bad in practice. And he came back in literally a week saying exactly the things which I had told him, worked like without any fuss. He just put the threshold and he got the thing. So these are oscilloscope traces. That's a fixed point. So this would have been all over the place chaos. But once you put the threshold, it's fixed there forever and ever. So it's perfect fixed point. The other one is a 4 cycle. It goes over these 4 dots. This one I count, maybe 7 and some 13. I just put some of the traces. But the point is that these are very complicated cycles, and for people who have tried to do control of chaos, they know how hard it is to do so many things, so many feedback loops in order to get it to control. Whereas this is completely like I have given you a table, you want something and you get it. So that's why I feel it is a little bit, maybe I should use it a little more also. And later, even much later than that, Morai's group and Kazu is also in this project. They like putting everything on a chip, as you know, as you were saying. People like it small, people like it nifty. So he has actually put, I think, 120 maps in a. So according to him, he can pack even more. He's looking for a killer application. So, as we know that some of these groups are excellent at the technology, so they can actually, if you tell them this, they can do it, but now they want an application which makes this worthwhile. Track of time. So, if you will tell me that I have about half an hour left, you need, right? Because I can't see a clock, so I think. So that was for maps. You can do it for differential equations. So that is a chaotic attractor, the one which looks like a ribbon, and you can control it to this nice cycle, more higher periodic cycles. This one is a Chua circuit. Maybe some of you have seen it in electronics labs. So that's often called a double scroll because it has these 2 chaotic scrolls. But you can control it still. You can make it a fixed point. You could make it cycles. You could also take a hyperchaotic system. I know that people are looking at hyperchaotic systems because these are systems which have what are called more than one positive Lyapunov exponents. That's another way of saying that there are more unstable directions, which means the degree of chaos, if that's a word, is more. Because people want to have more chaos in order to, for instance, do cryptography or random number generator. So we tried it for hyperchaos, and we thought one threshold may not cut it, but with one threshold, even the hyperchaotic system was cut. So it's a very powerful technique. So that is it. Now we want to use that to do something. I still think you can do many more things with this, but I'll show one of these, and that is to try and get a little logic gate from the chaotic system. So why did we even want it? A, because chaos gave those rich behaviors, so it could be a versatile pattern generator. Now the pattern is a logic function, that's all. Okay? What you want, so that is why I'm saying once you manage, you think of the 2 things as separate, the lookup table, flexible pattern generator. You can have many more things actually, but this is one. Okay. So you can think of the threshold activated chaotic system as like your chip, and a programming part which tells you what functionality it takes is threshold. So there you have to do your back calculation and your paper and pencil and see how to decide it. So the aim, and why are you even bothered to do this? You want to do it because you want that same chaotic system, because you know it has all these patterns in it. It would be fun if you made a system which could switch between all these logic flows. So you basically have something where you could morph between maybe NAND, NOR, XOR, whatever. Okay? So this would say that you could actually have a more dynamic architecture. And so that was the. And just one illustrative example, that's it. So suppose I took that map, that same very complicated map which I showed, very complicated pattern I showed, and I want to make it look like a logic gate. To get a logic gate, I need only 2 things, inputs and outputs. Okay? So the inputs, say I say, are just edited, I1 and I2, two inputs. And the output is that if it is more than the threshold, it's 1, less than the threshold, it's 0. Simple. Okay? Very easy to do in things like this. And say I wanted to implement these logic gates. Okay? Here are the truth table in case people have sort of forgotten the basic things. I had forgotten even though I was in IIT for years as a student. But when I came back to it, I had to go back and old notes. Yeah. Now, this part is for the people who do nonlinear dynamics. So if I'll just put it for 10 seconds because I know many of you may not be in it. But what does it translate? Here is a chaotic map. I want the truth table. So what do you have to do? What does the theoretician and the designer have to do? The designer has to find a solution of this bunch of equations, so that these are all satisfied simultaneously. So the necessary and sufficient conditions for this. This is where math comes, because you have to find out the solutions. You don't even know if they exist. And the bottom line, I will again not torture you with the guts of the solution. I'll just say this, because this part is important. Robust solutions exist only if the system is sufficiently nonlinear. So there is no way you can make this work for a simple linear system. So that is the whole thing. Not only is chaos powerful, it is necessary. If you didn't have it, you wouldn't have been able to even in principle get those solutions. So it was the richness of that thing which allowed you to take all those different functionalities from the same thing. And remember, it has two things which it packs, nonlinear dynamics. The richness, because it has all those patterns, more than you can even imagine. And it also has determinism. Let's not forget, that was the old classical thing. And why is that important? Because I can do the back design, because I know exactly where it came from, so I can work forward and find the solutions. So my design problem is actually easier. Okay, easier in the sense that you can do the math, but it's very, very clear path. No problems there. And so this was geologics, which I should say is now being bought up by ARM Cambridge for an undisclosed sum. When people say undisclosed sum, I suspect it's good. So now the little bit, the last bit, maybe I can take 20 minutes. It's okay. Okay. So now noise. Now where does this come? So here is a motivation which is, of course, everyone is facing the same question. And that is computational devices are shaky. There is fundamental noise characteristic, and you have to deal with it. You can't suppress it, you can't eliminate it, you can't wish it away. So you have to just find a way and see what you do. You can't say make it cleaner and cleaner, cooler and cooler and remove. So let's see what we do. So we thought, let us take this thing which is a disadvantage and see if we can turn it to an advantage. Just as in the chaos thing. Chaos seems so much less, but we put it to an advantage because we said, but it has richness. So let's get that. So can we do something about this? So no idea comes from vacuum. So our idea came a little bit inspired by this phenomenon of stochastic resonance. So this was very interesting, and actually engineers knew it in their own way for a long time, is that if you have had a little bit of noise, sometimes the signal to noise ratio is actually maximized. You always think noise is bad, right? Noise eliminate and eliminate. But if you add a bit of noise, actually the SNR peaks at a sweet spot. And people have been using it to even account for ice ages, geologists. Use all kinds of things. People, and in biology, they've been using it to figure out how certain species react to signals which are so low, and there's so much ambient noise, and still they are reacting to it. So they use these concepts. So our question was, okay, we will exploit the nonlinearity in the presence of the noise scope to do better. Well, what we do, of course, in order to get a good result, you have to face noise squarely, and tried to use it. And what we found was that if you took a nonlinear system, which has several stable states, give a stream of input signals. It was an optimal band of noise when the output was a logical combination of inputs. So I'll say that again. It, the performance of the system as a gate was best in this design in a band of noise, not when there is zero noise, not of course when there's too much noise, all bits are off, but it is perfectly sweet, broad band in the noise. And just a few bits of algebra, but very simple. Very quickly, I dispose of this. Suppose I took a very simple dynamic system, x dot some f of x, which is a function of x, which has a potential with two wells. Okay, I put an input stream and I put some noise. Here's the noise. Here's the input stream. Just remember that this is very low amplitude, sub-threshold. You're hitting it, you're not giving it a big thing from outside. In which case, you know what's the fun? You're tickling the system, literally, the low amplitude signal, high right side. And then, so this is the two wells. One well here, one well. Multi-stable. If it's on this side, it will swing to the bottom of this well, otherwise. No. So here is a schematic. Input bits, noise. The box is your nonlinear system. And it has two states. So if it goes to 1, I can interpret that as 1, and if it goes to other, it's 0. So here is the noisy nonlinear system forced by the input signal in the presence of noise, and this is your binary logic. And this is a huge, this amplitude is much bigger than the input signal. Those bits are low amplitude, the binary output has a lot of even if the rest goes fast, I just want to keep this particular picture. As I know, pictures always stay in the mind, and equations may go away. So here is from our. So here are three facts. This is a lot of noise. So it's no good. I mean, so much noise, anything can happen. It's going here, there. I mean, it's this is absolutely unworkable situation. So we don't need this. Now, if it's too little noise, you would have thought things would be good. But here is your input signal. And this black furry like a caterpillar is your output signal. Now, sometimes you will see that the same input signal gives different output signals. That is not good. So it's not consistently responding to the input. So too low noise doesn't let it respond to the input signal as consistently. Whereas in this large band of optimal noise in the middle, it is consistently switching with respect to the input signal, and it's also not switching randomly like too much noise. So it has got it's sort of balanced the switching and the response. So it's managing to respond and it's not doing it on its own. It's doing what it's told, but it's always doing what it's told. So that is the point. So in words, in this wide band of moderate noise, the desired logical outputs are most consistently obtained. And there's a whole bunch of experiments. One of this was done by another student, Raja Mohammed, in Chennai, and but really repeating it, which is also because you have to do a proof of principle, otherwise no one will believe it. So one small thing, you can also do the morphing, which was a USP of the other thing, for this also. Right? I think I have a small DC bias, a small constant bias here. And as I change the bias, I actually can change the logic of it. So for instance, here it's NAND and NOR, and the same thing, we're just putting a different C. These yellow spots are the sweet spots of operation. This is noise running this side, this is bias running on the y-axis. And so I'm in some band here, perfect operation. Literally, we gave it like 1,000,000 bits, and every single time it gave the right. it was a very unforgiving sort of chip. And so there was some write-ups. It's always nice if somebody takes the trouble to write up something which is reasonable. I will have to say both of these are quite well written, especially the one inside. That was very nice. So if anyone wants to strip it of the math and the details, these are the resources. I should also say that my ex-student Vivek Kumar, who is now in a company in the US, has done a nice Wolfram demo. So if anyone wants to play around with it, he has a Wolfram demo where he shows this whole thing called logical stochastic resonance by changing the potential, and it's nice to play around with. The only thing is he somehow put what I used to put in the x-axis and the y-axis, but that, students will do their own thing. So, so I leave it to that, but he has it there. It's quite nice. So now, very quickly, in about 5 minutes or so, I'll indicate 2-3 different things which people have done with systems. One was done in Mohanty's lab, but we are there, but Mohanty in Boston has this lab, which is a NEMS lab. So these are nanomechanical oscillators, and it exists in 2 vibrational states. So when he said 2 vibrational states, I said, we are in business. You have 2 states. Just grab the opportunity. And so again, in no time at all, he put a bit of. So this was fabricated from a single crystal silicon thing, which they know how to do very, very neatly. And this is the experimental result from his NEMS thing. Again, this panel is too much noise, and this is too little noise, so it gets stuck on top or stuck, it gets stuck below. So it has a way of sort of not responding consistently, and in the middle, so it seems to work very nicely in NEMS. So for some reason, this NEMS part has been picked up by many groups, and they seem to be doing well. But it would be nice if it's done in optoelectronics and optics as well. So at one point, I went to interest people in that. Another very quick one, because this is from someone who is Kazuo Emera, who is known to Dr. Pramod also very well. And here we were doing synthetic genetic networks, again, theoretically. And this was an ETL cover of that. And these were the equations. Don't worry, complicated. The good part of the complicated thing, it may be complicated, but at the end of it, it had a double. Complicated looking double well, but double well. And it had a way in which you fix the asymmetry. Once we did that, we tried to couple them together so that, just for fun, we could do two operations now in parallel. So there's no point coupling things together, making things bigger, unless you get some returns out of it. So the returns we thought we could get is to do parallel operations with these different things. So, and we thought it's also not so much fun, or it's more obvious if we do the same parallel operation. We do nod, nan. I mean, it's fine, but it's the same one. So we thought we could do some or and together, something different. And so here, one of those variables was doing this something, and the other was doing something else simultaneously. So in short, you can couple objects together in order to parallelize. That's the one-line summary of this. And the electronic analog of this was not done by Kazu, because somehow they didn't have the electronic experiments really. Ed Helen in the US actually, I'm also in this too, but he's done all the work there. And so this was the electronic analog of it. And here it's perfect switching. And here it is low noise. So it's got stuck on top, you see it only on top or only below. No good, no switching, no response. And here it is perfect response. These are the inputs. There is a lot of work from other groups. This slide I don't understand, because once in a while I look up, because it's got so many sites, so I look up what others are doing. But it seems people are putting it in different systems. So there is stuff on web cells, which Christina and all were doing. I'm not very sure about it. Of course, lens I have also done, and many things are there. The first bit is the theory part. A lot of people are doing it on different types of noise and other intuition-based measures, and this bit is on the experiments. Many more. Just put up some. So, just 2 more minutes I think, because this part may interest Dr. Pramod because he had worked on synchronized systems when he was doing his PhD. And you could also use it by using synchronized optic technology. So this was done by Manoj Arvind, my ex-student. And so he had two systems. This is input 1, this is input 2. This is some noise, this is some noise. I have some bias input. And the output is just the synchronization speed. So if it's synchronized, it's fine. If it's not, it's fine. So same well, output below different wells. That's all. And this he actually managed to do a nice neat experiment by experimenting all the parameters, coupling strength and the bias and noise strength and everything. And this is a summary thing of AND NOR, XOR, or AND, he's good 4 of these, 6 of these, and it shows these yellow spots are perfect operational regimes, and this is got from two systems. That's a nice one. Actually, it started off because he said that it would be fun not to have to put two at them and then put it together. What if we drove two of them separately? So I felt maybe there is some possibility to do something like this. This is my last slide. There is a way to put the first part and the second part together, and you can. So the second part are these two objects and not this. But I can actually put a function of the inputs in as a drive. And again, the point here is, if the function is sufficiently nonlinear, in this case it was a quadratic polynomial, if it is sufficiently nonlinear, I can again get all conjugates. So again, just want to say this, power of nonlinearity is huge. Because it manages to give you all the different types of responses. Linear and monotonic responses are more and more and more, or less and less and less of the same. The only way to do things differently is through this. I will not talk about this. This is my last summary slide. Okay. So I just hope I gave you a small glimpse of the central idea, which is you take chaos, which is complicated, but try to exploit some part of it. And the part you wanted to exploit was the patterns, which are embedded. It's natural. Chaotic system gives it to you for free. So you want to take that. And everywhere, whether it was in the last scheme or the first scheme, you're trying to harness the power of nonlinear transformations. And sometimes nature gives it again to you as a nonlinear system whose dynamics is a natural nonlinear transformation. So you want to try to use that. And the last bit is some idea for the constructive use of the jitters of noise, which is usually seen as a no-no and something to avoid. Then you turn the thing around and use it to help in some way. So that's it. Sorry. Now or later.
Anybody have any questions?
Or even later is fine. Yeah.
It's not a question, it's more of a request.
Right.
The systems we are dealing with optically biased cable, with the noise we have a diversity impact on the previous
Yeah.
initial definition. Can you please elaborate on it? Does it play the similar role?
It's very, very. I was just discussing. So you could do the diversity. It's actually tailor-made. I think it could be very easily kind of one could get some answers out of it. I mean, the thing is, you have to set it up so that the inputs and the outputs are well defined. So usually in some of these things, a lot of old coherence, whatever problems which people did theoretically, computationally, even in the lab. people were not asking the applied questions. So they were not trying to map inputs to outputs in any way. So you say, I put something in, see what happens. As I said, that's an extremely fine thing. I mean, I myself have gone through that in many things. Sometimes I only do that. But it's good if you have that box which shows diversity or some sort of coherence, resonance in any way. If you have some way to make inputs and outputs of interest, it would be. We could try to map it to a killer problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's very
Yeah.
difficult. So as I remember that Vivek Kohar actually created some electronic circuit for.
He had also created quite a few of them. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Vivek, the one who had the demo, Wolfram demo. So I didn't put all of it. So he had managed to do that because he was also putting this thing with a little bit of fast periodic forcing just to get the same effect as noise and things like that. So that he had done the circuit. But these are not tabletop. So in that sense, still bulky. For instance, not the kind of thing which the Kyushu group of Morais had done. They had put it on a chip. I mean, so all they were saying is, you tell us what to do and we will do it. But I haven't met him afterwards. So we don't have that to go from the tabletop to that scale. We don't have that would need another set.
Yeah, we are also looking for the beautiful photonic test in order to fulfill, in order to demonstrate all these things in laboratory level.
Yeah.
So our planning to create a coupled oscillator system, laser system, because nowadays nanostructure based semiconductor laser is very easy to fabricate on the chip. So even in my previous working platform, we created 10,000 laser on a single chip. So it's very easy, like a Excel. Christina is working on.
She has done a little bit of the logical stochastic resonance for this. So I had really, others have also done. So they have done it, but I don't think they have actually. So the one which I'm looking for a lot is the synchronized coupling, because that no one has done right now.
So,
because it somehow really has something to do with coupling.
So this is our very decision making based on photonic intelligence, our latest very hot research. And so we are planning to demonstrate in our laboratory level at least, and think about the scalability and all later. So,
yeah, but I mean the main thing is the application, because the whole thing about the noise, if you want to add a little noise or diversity or something, is that you can think of your landscape as having a lot of attracting states, and you want to push it to the right one. The two well is an easy way of saying two wells. You want to push it to the right well, but in a higher dimensional say decision, you have many decisions which are possible. You have to still push it to the right one.
yes,
that
is the beauty of
that
yours,
is the
because you
noise
have,
thing.
you have
the
knob
thing,
in your
you
hand.
have the knob
So
and
you can give the desirable noise to get the targeted stick. So you have knob.
So actually,
that
the
is
knob
why.
is what the asymmetry or the bias is the knob, because that just tilts it. Like you think of it that there are some like little wells. If you give a slight tilt, it will go to the right one. So that little tilt is your knob in some sense.
So in the context of random number generation, we are doing in little bit reverse, because here we don't want to control the system. We want to system unstable, make the system unstable because of the noise. So
That's the reverse thing.
it's a reverse thing. So we want to make it highly random.
Absolutely.
In the presence of noise. So optics, as you discuss about the threshold. So when you really near about the threshold, your system is highly unstable.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to make the transition from this step to this step.
Right.
So in a laser system, because we are using laser system, so laser near about threshold, both that regime, quantum regime and classical regime, are competing each other. Because if you work very high above the threshold, you are in purely a classical regime. But if you are working near about the threshold, you are actually near about the quantum regime. but it's highly unstable. So this issue with experimentalist is we are unable to actually capture this state because like amplitude death state. I cannot reach at the amplitude death state in laser system. Means ultimate amplitude death. We call it, but it's not really amplitude. This is suppression.
Right. Because even in electrochemical, I found that what they call amplitude death was just
I'm
suppression.
talking about
Even more.
yes, I'm talking
No,
about
there
laser
also
system.
it's actually not true amplitude death. It is,
Yes, because reaching at the origin is not easy task.
Yeah.
So
you're probably more oscillation. Yeah, but
yes, you
so,
have.
but it is true that so in some sense, if you think of it, that's the beauty of the thing in here. You could control it to a whole library of patterns, like a lookup table, super stable, or you can push it to, as he says, even more unstable, where it gets even more like an uncorrelated system. See, because it has a little generated it from a formula, right? So there is some correlation, right? It decays very fast, but how fast it decays is where you have to
Yes.
do your. Yeah. Okay, so I think we have taken up a lot of your valuable time.
Okay, any other?
I'm just wondering if, for example, I have an input and then I get a complex output. So is there any way to judge whether it's a kind of artifact or noise or there is some non-linear pattern and the output is falling? So is there
You
any
mean
way to
as
judge
an observation?
Yeah.
Even from an observation.
from an observation?
Oh, okay. So that's yet another question. So that's of course not what I have dealt with. Here I know my system. So if the question is that you have a natural system or the natural world and you observe something and so how would you know what is underlying?
Yes.
Right? So that was actually from 80s it's been a question, and so there are many ways of reconstructing the underlying
Kind of
elements.
probabilistic
Yeah.
approach.
So those techniques are in fact pretty well developed because that was one of the oldest chaos questions. Because when Liebschaber and all did their experiments in fluids, how would he know that a table was not shaking and that it was a deterministic system? So it was because it was one of the oldest chaos questions, in fact, and or say the weather. Is it a deterministic cosmic system or is it just noise? So people have attractive reconstruction thing, and the whole point is there are ways to see that to distinguish it from noise. One of them is called Propachi algorithm. These are algorithms to find out correlations, and they are very well developed and people do it even for ECGs and EEGs to see if there's underlying pattern. So anytime series, that is, but this was not that. But yeah, it is a well posed question and it's indicated literature.
So, chaos, what is the basic difference between the chaos and randomness?
Chaos is a deterministic system. That's what I said, right? It's a deterministic system. See, when you say random numbers, truly random thing, it's not coming from a formula or it's not generated by something which is like the dynamical system. The chaotic, the complicated thing is generated by an extremely simple algorithm formula. So it's deterministic.
I got a deterministic system.
Right.
I did something with it, stimulated something, and it went into the state of chaos. Right?
You don't even have to do. You take a pendulum, perfectly good because you tell time with pendulum, so as exact as a clockwork. You put a double pendulum, put another one. It's fully chaotic. It can be fully chaotic. So you don't even have to drive or anything. So that's the thing. So what would that mean? That if I then start seeing the angles of the ball, it would be unpredictable. You wouldn't know. Sometimes you wouldn't even know if it's going fully rotation or so just by adding from one bob to two bobs in a pendulum. So
Like if we see in the state of double pendulum, then it is a random, but we drive from the state of
it is not, I wouldn't call it random. It is a deterministic chaos. So that's why, otherwise we would have used the word random. Why make a new word? It's a new word because it is deterministic, because it's a double pendulum, Newton's equations, like equal to mg. Nothing more. No noise. I haven't touched it. Perfect thing. I put a frictionless support. As good as it comes. Air is nice and all. No, so I do the experiment. There are beautiful LED demonstrations of this where you take, you can see the pattern. It's so complicated. So and it's just Newton's laws, and it gives it to you, right? So it is deterministic. And you would have thought, like Newton had said, I have a deterministic equation, initial condition only, solve the differential equation. I know the answer for any amount of time. So that is like a clockwork universe. Like, I have, if I have a set of equations, I take initial condition, solve the equation, I should know the answer. But that is not the, so that's the point. You have that, but it is so sensitive that anything, even like little bit, is going to throw you completely to a different path.
Ma'am, in case of non-deterministic system,
So in the case of non-deterministic, so at the end I put in noise, so that was non-deterministic, so that is random. So when I put noise, that is a true random event because it's delta correlated. There's no the correlation drops from every single point of time. It has zero correlation. It's really fast. So that is, so the last thing is non-deterministic because of the noise. But you can analyze it quite well because there's a deterministic component plus the jiggle of noise. So it is, if it was very large noise, then it is dominated by randomness. If it is very small noise, when people do in labs, pendulum, they ignore that little noise and they say very good results, we are getting the time period and all. And then it, though it is technically, if I have something.
We are dealing with the same things.
You must be sure.
Yes, we are dealing with the same
So it
thing.
depends on the level. And what is a effective
And
approximation?
our deterministic noise is overcome. Thus, deterministic is purely random. So we are considering these two decisions.
So to sum it, what as a biologist and other like not all of us, so what I have understood is that nature has embedded orders in disorders, and we can extract multiple patterns out of it. And if I sum it up philosophically, it is like using complexities to your advantage. Complexities have always orders embedded in it. So that is what I felt about the whole lecture. So I extend my heartfelt gratitude and thank you, ma'am, for on behalf of the audience for inspiring us to delve deeper into the topic. And now I would call upon Dr. Pramod to give a vote of thanks to conclude this. Please, thank you.
I'm not Dr. As always, I would like to thank Dr. Pramod for arranging this talk. And on behalf of the whole Prof team, I would like to thank Dr. Sinha for this very interesting talk. Although it was very complicated for me, but I'm sure that our engineers and our scientists, they have benefited from it. The noise and the chaos that has been discussed will go a long way in our research. Once again, thank you very much.
I have already talked about much. So anyway, thank you very much, ma'am, for accepting my invitation in your short time. And it's really great pleasure and privilege to have here, and as you projected a very nice impression about the chaos and different contexts of biological system and labs and all. So it's really interesting things if we deal with the chaos for the modern technological application, then it's really amazing system. The good thing is that, as I already discussed, the good thing is that we have knowledge in our hand. So we can manipulate and control the system according to our desirable state. So one can use this for computing gates and of course random number generation and many more. So we are planning to create a photonic platform in our laboratory, and the context of random number generation cryptography or something decision making people. But central idea of all the technology, all the idea is optical chaos, the generation of optical chaos. So optical chaos is beautiful system because optics means there is no issue of speed, there is no issue of bandwidth. So you have very large bandwidth optical chaos. So this is the beauty of the system. So dealing this non-deterministic or NP-hard problem with laser light is our idea to create this system. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
We want a group photo.
Sure.
Sorry. Where is cameraman?
But I